Ethos. What do you mean by that? Somewhere we have a feeling that the civilization to which I belong had reached a zenith and we have come down from that. I want to recapture that. And that can be of three kinds. When we mean excellence, we mean three things: societal excellence, educational excellence, and technical excellence. When we say societal excellence, when I say my society was perfect once upon a time, I think you will not be able to accept it. Today we see so many fissures in our society. People are divided on anything. Forget about caste, religion, and all those things. A time will come when we are going to divide ourselves even on the basis of street. You live in this street, I live in this street, I will not talk to you. Our politicians are dividing us so badly. Is it not? But you will be very shocked to know this was India once upon a time. Tianzu was the Chinese name for ancient India, meaning heavenly abode. Just imagine, we were heaven once upon a time. Today nobody would tell, even we would not characterize ourselves like that. The Japanese, Tenjiku is the Japanese name for ancient India, meaning heavenly abode. All the other civilizations were looking towards us for excellence. And you see all the people who came to India, all the travelers, Xuan Zeng, Marco Polo, Fahian, what they had to say about India?
So you could operate the remote from there.
Yeah, from there also talking. With respect to the ordinary people, they are upright and honorable. In money matters, they are without craft. And in administration of justice, they are considerate. In behavior, there is much gentleness. With respect to criminals, there are few. This was India in 629 AD. But even about 150 years back, it remained intact in spite of so many invaders coming here. But this one man, he changed the course of history. But you see what he had to tell about India. I have travelled across the length and breadth of India, and I have not seen one person who is a beggar, who is a thief. Such wealth I have seen in this country, such high moral values, people of such caliber that I do not think we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is a spiritual and cultural heritage. And therefore I propose to that we replace our old and ancient education system, the culture, for the Indians think that all that is foreign and English is good and greater than their own, they will lose their self-esteem, their native culture, and they will become what we want them, a truly dominated nation. I mean, hats off to him. He did it with remarkable ease. Today, even now, we are mentally slaves. When Lord Macaulay was here, I will tell you one instance. I mean, these stories or these true events have not seen the light of the day. In Kerala, we had the Travancore kingdom, and there was a judge there by name Govinda Pillai. He was a very strict judge, very honest, very sincere, and utterly devoted to duty. But constantly, it was in his mind that I should do justice to the person. And unfortunately for him, he condemned a man to death. And during those days, there is no appeal provision. Once the judge decides, that's the end of it. Afterwards, he came to know that he had condemned a man very unjustly. I don't think any single judge in India or anywhere in the world will do this. He straight away went to the king and said, I have done a very dastardly crime. The king asked what happened. He said, sir, I have unjustly sentenced a man to death and he has been killed because of me. I deserve the most severe punishment. See, it was very easy for him to have got clemency. He could have asked the king for a pardon, the king would have pardoned, because after all it was a very small life that went. The king said, no, what is there? These things do happen. He said, no, I deserve the most severe kind of punishment. The king was in a very delicate situation and he managed himself by telling, my job is not to write judgments, it is your job. You write your own judgment. And unheard of in legal history, anywhere in the world, he proceeded to write a judgment against himself, and you know what he wrote? He said, my legs should be cut off and I should be hanged. The king was aghast. He said, please reconsider your decision. He said, nothing will. He said, I deserve even more worse than this. For I did not do my duty properly. And the king had no other alternative but to execute that order. His legs was cut off. He was hanged. And he had also willed that after I died, his body should be taken to my village. It should be hung for 3 days. And people should come and mock at me. But thereafter, strange things started happening in the kingdom. And astrological advice was sought. And they said that the soul of the judge is still not happy with the self-inflicted punishment. He is wandering in the kingdom. So finally it was decided that this soul should be pacified, and he has been now kept in a temple. In the temple premises, a small temple has been erected for him, and he is called as Judge Ammavan. Ammavan in Malayalam means uncle. Judge uncle. All those who have legal problems, difficulties, false cases, they all go and pray before him. The temple is opened only after the main temple closes in the night at 8:15. It is believed that his lordship still presides. They go and bow before him. Whatever your prayer, you can go and tell him.
Which place, sir?
This is in Kottayam district,
Kottayam.
on the Manimala Ramvi road. When you go to Shabarimala, you can near Palatton. So very famous this thing, Judge Ammavan. So lots of people come. In fact, lots of ministers who are involved in various kinds of corruption. They are all now going there.
He feels uncomfortable in his grave.
And the next is educational excellence. See, like I told you, why people, all of you, I think many of you must be having that idea in mind that we will go to US. We will go to get an Ivy League degree. Why? Because you feel their education system is more excellent. Excellence. You are going in search of excellence. It may be right or wrong. Because the other day, 2-3 days back, I think you would have read in the papers that Harvard has admitted that many of their students were caught copying. So I don't know what excellence they are teaching, but anyway, that is up to you. And from educational excellence, when we say educational excellence, you take India. You see so many, whether it's mathematics, astronomy, medicine. See, even yoga. What is yoga? Some speakers were giving us enlightenment. I would like to say the real meaning of yoga is union with God. To achieve that union, your mind requires a fit body. So we are fine-tuning our body so that our mind can be more sharp. Unfortunately, in the Western hands, it has gone into so many manipulations that now they are talking of power yoga and all those things. God knows what it is. And from educational excellence, we get what is known as technical excellence. Is it? I'll make my point a little more clear to you. I always say this, in earlier days the white men came to India and made us into slaves. Today we are manufacturing slaves and sending them to the white men. That's what all our institutes are doing. We are training you so that you can prepare yourself for the GRE exam and then go to the US, beg them for a green card, then ultimately a citizenship. I mean, I don't know, rightly or wrongly, that is accepted. And you can understand the futility of this whole thing. See, none of our universities have been able to produce a single Nobel Prize winner. Before you tell me C.V. Raman, please understand, when C.V. Raman went to receive the Nobel Prize, he cried on the stage. Somebody went to him and asked him, "Sir, why you are crying?" So he said, "I am receiving this Nobel Prize not as a citizen of India, I am receiving it as a citizen of Great Britain." We don't have a Nobel Prize winner in science. Tagore is different. And you see, each country has produced so much. USA 163, UK 112, all these things. We don't figure anywhere. Universities, you see, these are, none of our universities figure anywhere. But we are telling the whole world that we have technical excellence. I just want 10 minutes of your time. This is a 3-hour PowerPoint presentation. I go to almost various universities and colleges to talk on this. It is 3 hours. So I will rush like an express train, because having come all the way here, I want you to get some benefit. You know, when you go for South Indian marriages, especially for Brahmin marriages, when you go, they will give you one small bag. Keep this also. Take it. So like a train, I am giving you one small bag. Kindly take it with you and unfold it when in your free time. It will be of great value to you. This is a subject which has not received any kind of publicity. Just 2 months back, Shankara TV had called me and I had given a series of, you can say, lectures for about 3 months. Now we are working on another to make it into a very big serial, and so that, you know, all the younger generation can know what sort of an excellence India had achieved. I'll be going very fast. You don't need any explanation for this. You will think that this is taken from any aeronautical manual. Types of aeroplanes, constructing aeroplanes, all those things. But the next slide that I am going to show you. Many of this technology we don't have. The secret of making planes invisible. The secret of hearing conversations in enemy planes. And you may think that these are all high technology items being made by Western countries. This is the latest one, the American one, which is yet to roll out. This is the Russian one. India is also having. Where do you think we got this from? Quick guess. You went with the shop of your life. This is written by one Maharshi Bharadwaja. And the title of the book is Vimanika Shastra. Epitome of technical excellence. I'll go quickly now. Some of our speakers told earlier that we were here for 5,000 years. Is it correct? Every day when you open the newspaper, you read, mankind has been on this planet for 300,000 years. Every day scientists are coming with new, they're going back. This is NASA's famous imagery of the Ram Setu. And NASA says it was there 1,75,000 years back, and it is a man-made artificial bridge. That means your Ramayana should have occurred 1,75,000 years back. Why I told this was, Maharshi Bharadwaja, we do not know when he wrote this book. But he says, during the Ramayana age, there was aircraft. During the Vedic age, there was aircraft. So that means he should have lived, as per many opinion of Indologists, around the Mahabharata time or immediately thereafter. And you see that last one. 32 techniques to fly an aircraft. How can somebody tell that? 32 techniques to fly an aircraft. Now he is giving, he says, this is not my work. It is there right from the beginning. And you will be surprised to know, because I am just rushing through this so that you don't miss out on anything. In almost every book of ours, in every Hindu book, there is a reference to flying machines. We are not talking of one book, we are talking about a library of books. You see this? In this book it says how to take off, ascend to the sky, how to perform feats without crashing. Unless you were familiar with aeronautical engineering, nobody can write like that. How to make planes invisible. And this, of course, I just imagined how the Japanese and the other people have now successfully invented how to make images just by optical illusion. And that is exactly what the Maharshi says. By use of mirrors, we can make things invisible. You see, such a very simple thing. Definition of Vimana. V plus Mana. V means very high or beyond reach. Mana means moving object. Thus, Vimana means a very high moving object. You see this Vedic references. In Vedas he says, man-made craft. Because that resembles moderns by commentators. You see the next one. Unstreamlined structures that fly in a mysterious manner which are not made by human beings. For the very first since the inception of mankind, if somebody should talk about UFOs and extraterrestrials, the Vedas, the Rig Veda mentions about this in the very beginning. So they have been with us right throughout. And what are Vimanas? You see this? He gives a very sharp distinction. Vimanas flying in the Surya Mandala, solar system, and he says Vimanas flying in the Nakshatra Mandala. See, those of you with a scientific background will know that it is impossible for, the scientists say that it is impossible for any man-made structure to leave our solar system. But you see, the knowledge should have been so much for somebody to tell that. And look at the funny thing. The types of Vimanas. You see these last two. Huge airships for interplanetary travel and flying cities for indefinite stay in space. So it's something which is, mind-boggling. Just one question to the audience. What do you think about this? Very fast. Whatever you feel, I have not written the book. So if you feel it is nonsense, you can say it is nonsense. There can be four things. One, it is correct. One, it is false. Three, it is somebody's figment of their imagination. So, whatever you feel like, just
About which
about this Vaimaniki Shastra.
No, I mean, we have heard of Pushpaka Vimana when Ravana.
I asked you a different question. Do you believe this or not?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, I'm very surprised. Normally I get the reaction that it is somebody's fantastic imagination. And I tell them, see, I don't have anything to give as proof to you. There is no material evidence, nothing I have. But I will answer your question in a different way. Please describe this for me. I am going to come in 4000 AD. That is 2000 years since I am going to come. I am going to come to Manipal and I want you to leave an account for me. That is, today on 8th February, Pakistan dropped one atom bomb in Manipal. Everything was destroyed. Don't worry, all of you are surviving. Everything has been destroyed. By reading that, I should know what happened.
Carbon footprint.
Okay? By reading that, I should know what happened. You get my this thing? Like that way, do this exercise for this also. A mobile phone which all of you are having. Tell me that you have this and you could contact anyone in the world. By simply pressing some numbers, I can call you. That call will come only to you wherever you are in the world. Okay? And the last one, because we are talking about aircraft, please tell me one journey from here to, say, New Delhi or Mumbai. And this one, whatever you feel like you can write. Please, very fast. What did you write for the first one? Anyone, please.
The degree of destruction that took place.